Chaz,
I'm Luke.
I'm Isaiah.
and today we're going to talk about the different characteristics of today's U.S. population and next year's population in 2020. And Trek's going to start with the first point.
So the first point is the total size of major regions. Basically, these major regions, these major cities have increased since, for example, the 1990s or 1980s. Being that these cities are expanding, they're growing, their agriculture is growing, they're building more buildings, putting more jobs into these cities, which is attracting more people. And then the second point is the age distribution. I'm going to use the example of Converse. So if you ever seen any advertisements back then with Converse, there was a different style that they incorporated into their brand, being that the trend, being what type of trend it was back then and what people wore back then. Now it's different. Back then they wore high socks with Converse, and they had the high pants or high shorts over the knee, and now it's just a different trend. They had to adapt to what kids or people wear now with Converses.
And I'm going to allude off of that with the education level. Education levels are growing as the people are growing. It's, say, like in 2000, the education level was at this level. Now that everybody is growing and going into college or going into the workforce, they're growing their educational level and moving on to something new, developing something new, bringing up new technology, and developing new styles of bringing about this change. And that's how they try to market and get their ads out there through social media or through this new stuff that they are developing every single day.
And I'm going to bounce off to the occupation structure and differences of how it is today and next year. Today, you see people in the 90s or that were born in the 90s be in the bottom level of their organizational structure because they started off in their early 20s and working their way up, and now as they go to their 30s and late 20s, they're looking for a higher position in their structure. So wherever they're working at, they're in a different position. They're probably going to a manager position or a position that has higher pay for them. And then people that were born in the early 2000s, are probably starting to become a part of the organizational structure, occupation structure. Starting to find jobs. They're starting their basic pays, their bottom work line level, and people that were born in the 1980s to 1970s are starting to retire, because they're starting to go into their early 40s, late 40s to early 50s, late 50s to their 60s. So this is around the time that they'll start retiring, and the age group around the 2010s, they're still developing as kids and teenagers, so they're still in school, so they're not really part of the occupational structure still, but that's going to change from this decade to the next decade.